Space with Nina Michelle. I'm Michelle Humphreys.
And I am Nina Keegan. We are broadcasting live at NRB, the largest gathering of Christian communicators in the world. And we have some awesome, wonderful guests that we are privileged to have on our program today.
I will do the awesome introduction. Second to none. Amazing. He was the moderator of CNN's Inside Politics after covering the White House for CNN since March 2006. Henry became CNN's senior White House correspondent in December 2008. And starting in 2022, Henry is co-host with Karen Turk on the Real America's Voice, TV's weekday morning show. And personally, this guest, I learned so much when I listened to him. He is the inside voice on the news, Mr. Ed Henry.
So nice to see both of you. Very friendly faces and positive as I saw you in the hallways here at NRB. So it's nice to be on with you.
We are grateful. So
yes,
Henry, we want to know stuff. What do you got? We know that
well, Grace, can I call you Grace?
Yeah,
so I see the show's called Grace. I thought I had two people named Grace, but Nina, go ahead.
We already had the joke that we were going to do that.
Oh.
Okay, so I want to know, we want to know what is happening with the news.
Yeah.
And why are things getting shut down and censored? And
look, Donald Trump called it out, right? He called it fake news, and people on the left, people in the mainstream media freaked out. I will admit, as someone who was in the mainstream media for many years, even though I know Donald Trump well and covered him closely, and I've had good private relations with him as somebody I know. I now am based in West Palm Beach, Florida, so I see him a lot. I cringed a little bit as a longtime mainstream media person back in 2016, saying, "Is this really what you want to do?" But over time, I've come to see the wisdom of what Donald Trump was saying. People in the media lie. I think Roger Ailes, when I was at Fox News, he called that out way before many other people. They push narratives. Think about COVID. Think about the vaccines. Think about the Russia collusion lies targeting Donald Trump that we now know. And the border, how they've told us for so long there's not a crisis. How the Democrats, I covered many of their news conferences when I was covering the White House or the Congress before that. Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton as senators used to say we need a wall. Imagine that. Then Donald Trump was for it, and it's racist. When they were for it, it was a smart idea. And so the Russia collusion thing, real quick, I covered a lot of that. I was covering the Trump White House some when he was there. And his administration was being hindered, and their efforts, their power was curtailed by all these investigations that we now know were lies, based on lies.
Right.
And so my point is, what's happening with the news? It's finally catching up to them, I think. And so my point about myself is, when I was inside the mainstream media, I kind of cringed at first. Do we really want to call it fake news? And I don't believe everyone is fake news, to be clear. But I think there is a lot of fake news. And now I'm with Real America's Voice, that like a lot of your streaming outlets as well, whether we're on Roku and Apple TV, our own app, you can download it, Real America's Voice. We don't have those kinds of restrictions. I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying all we say is the truth. Nobody's perfect. That's part of the problem, is people in the mainstream media act like they're perfect, act like what they have to say is the gospel. It's far from it. And many times they twist the facts, they push a narrative, and they lie. So you know what? Fake news probably does apply. Donald Trump was right.
Exactly. Well, what I personally want to know, and I'm always asking, like, you are a true investigative journalist.
Thank you.
You dig and drill down, and you get the story.
Yeah.
Where are the other investigative journalists?
There are not a lot left.
Seriously?
Yeah, I've always tried to not be opinion first, pundit first. I think we have too many people already giving their opinions. I want to try to bring some facts to the table. Look, Dr. Naomi Wolf is on our show every Thursday on Real America's Voice. She's a journalist in part a commentator. But she's damn smart, and I think courage is what she brings to it as well. Too many people in Washington, too many people in journalism in New York, all these big cities, want to be liked, want to be part of the crowd. And if you step out and challenge the official government narrative on things like the vaccine, you might get canceled, you get laughed at, you get mocked. And Dr. Wolf is somebody who I'd highlight, who has spoken truth to power in raising questions. You don't always have all the answers. Like I said, we're not perfect, but at least have the guts to raise some tough questions. When Trump was in office, they're pounding the man every day with some lies, some facts, and a whole lot of questions because they wanted to hound him. Now Biden's there. The man doesn't have a news conference for months on end. Everybody looks the other way. because we know he can't answer the questions. He's not even all there.
Ice cream, that's like
yeah.
the big
Oh, he got
topic.
2 scoops today.
I mean,
Big news.
But at a certain point, the media is helping create the world that they're going to live in. Their kids, their grandkids are going to live in this evil that they're creating.
It's evil they've created, and they live in a bubble where they don't feel necessarily, because they're inflated salaries and other things, the Bidenflation. That I was talking to some of my colleagues here, and they were like, I can't believe I paid $5 for a bottle of water in Orlando. And again, we're based in West Palm Beach, so there are parts to that are more middle class, and parts to that on the Palm Beach Island side that are quite rich. And so $5 for a bottle of water in Palm Beach, you might, well, that's just standard. There's all these rich people there, right? In Orlando, where families are going to Disney World, my colleague was pointing out, I thought it wouldn't be $5. And I said, you know what? I think honestly, we get out in the country like you both do, and we see what real Americans are paying. This is Bidenflation. You can imagine, I'm sure you've seen in the hotel, there's a lot of people here at the Marriott for the Religious Broadcasters Convention that we're at. And then a lot of 4 or 5 people in a family going to Disney World, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do they afford the tickets, the food, the airline? I remember my parents taking me. It was a big adventure when I was a kid, whether you're going to Orlando or Anaheim. Disney's gotten woke, so I don't know that we want to spend our money there anymore.
Right.
But there's a lot of families who I don't begrudge them if freedom, of choice and speech in terms of if you want to bring your family somewhere. I'm not going to tell you. I'm very libertarian, but I think they have a woke agenda that we should expose.
They do.
But how does that family of 4? How does that family of 5 a vacation, whether it's Disney World or the Grand Canyon? It's crazy right now.
Well,
but those reporters don't pay they don't realize that $5 bottle. They look the other way, that Biden's inflation. The inflation was down here when Trump was in office.
Exactly.
Now it's up here. And Biden kept saying it's transitory. Yeah. He lied. He kept saying that I inherited this from Trump. That was a lie too.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the borders closed and all this, every single thing. And if you want to know what the truth is, see who's getting shut down.
Yeah.
And see what's happening. And I know even our own ministry gets shut down a lot. They say that, it's hate speech, it's blasphemous, it goes against community
And it's straight out of the
standards.
Bible.
Right. You quote from the Bible and
Yeah.
it's hate speech. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's about love.
You've seen Target, what's going on there? It's not just the tuck bathing suit thing that there's a crisis. They've got this satanic clothing.
Yes.
You saw this?
Yes.
That they're going to put in Pride Month.
Yes.
Why is it inspired by Satan? I think we know.
Well, and why is that easy to believe in?
Yeah.
It's a supernatural being, just like Jesus. Why is that okay?
Yeah.
And it's just you have to wonder about all of this, but it is not. Right now we're in such a divide that it is really good versus evil. It isn't right left. It isn't Democrats. Republicans.
It is a battle between good and evil. You're right.
You're seeing that evil just try to swoop in, and it is terrifying. And so how, we all know kind of the issues that have happened at Fox News and things. So how are we going to find, we need to talk about how they're going to find you and where all the things that you're on. But how are we going to make sure that we have platforms that are not going to get canceled and shut down and aren't going to get forced off the air and all of these?
There's no easy answer, but I think streaming gives us a shot because it's sort of small d democratizing it and flattening the media power. You go back to before I was in there, before you guys were involved in media, it was 3 big networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and then CNN flattened it a little bit and was a little down the middle at the beginning, moved left further and further over the years. And in the Trump years, you couldn't recognize the old CNN. They're now trying to move a little bit back towards the middle, a little bit of sanity. I'm not saying they're perfect either. I'm not saying I'm buying that they're normal now.
Trump's town hall.
The Trump town hall is a great example. The best ratings they've had in years.
Exactly.
Why is that? Well, they actually listened to the man, and they actually listened to the people who were there. And then, of course, they got criticism from the left, so they ran. Yeah, they had to run out of there. So where's it going? What do we do? Well, Real America's Voice is one of those streaming platforms where we try to be fearless about this. And with the internet, you can stream it out there. The government still is going to find a way eventually to block what they want to block. We've seen it on YouTube and other platforms. But I think Real America's Voice, I think Rumble, I think Frank Speech, I respect everything that Mike Lindell has been doing. He's pouring his own hard-earned money into this. He puts his money where his mouth is, right? And so when you want to talk about frank speech, free speech, it's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to actually back it up, fight, like I said, not just us, like Dr. Wolf and others. She's been threatened. She's had to find ways to publish books around the normal channel. Someone like Simon & Schuster normally would give someone who's got this sensational Pfizer documents exposing corruption. Simon & Schuster would give you a $5 million book advance if you were on 60 Minutes or something. Right. But if you're Dr. Wolf and you're challenging the pharmaceutical industries that fund a lot of these TV news networks, you're persona non grata.
Exactly.
So we got to fight back. How do we do it? It's not easy. There's no obvious plan. You just fight every day and try to tell the truth.
Right. Well, Americans are so worried about the economy right now. What are your thoughts on the debt ceiling crisis?
I think a lot of it has been manufactured by the White House. The Democrats want to say, oh, these mean Republicans want to cut spending and want to delay us borrowing more money, lifting the ceiling to borrow more money. And that's why I think Republicans call it a manufactured crisis, and they're right, because we're not going to default. It's just a threat to kind of make the Republicans cower and not demand more spending cuts. And frankly, over the years, too many Republicans have cowered, whether they be rhinos or others, and have not demanded spending cuts. In the Trump years as well, I'll be honest, there was a lot of spending under Trump as well. Not as bad as Biden, but I think Republicans over the years, I remember covering George W. Bush's White House, prescription drug plans and other things, billions and billions of dollars of our tax money that there's no plan to actually cover. You know, how do you pay for it except raise taxes. And we're on a prescription for disaster when you've got over $33 trillion in debt. And so I think Kevin McCarthy came to power as Speaker, like kind of limping in with 15 ballots or whatever to become Speaker. And he wins by a razor's edge. And he's being led around by Matt Gaetz and others. But he's delivered on some things, not everything.
Yes,
they held him to the fire.
They did, and that worked.
Good, yes.
Yeah.
And the investigations that he said he would do, like with James Comer, we could talk about the Biden family corruption. They're developing a lot of information there that we should talk about. Number two, on the debt ceiling, Biden wouldn't negotiate with him for a long time. Biden kept saying he wouldn't put spending cuts on the table. McCarthy said, you'll never pass this in the House, the White House said. Gosh darn it, they brought in the House Republicans. They passed a plan to lift the debt ceiling as the Democrats in the White House want, but with spending cuts in there.
Right.
And what's the reaction from the White House, the Democrats? Oh, they're a bunch of terrorists trying to hold things up. It's all name calling.
Yeah.
And you do that kind of name calling when you can't win on the facts, right?
It's never about policy. They don't have, it's all about against Trump, against Republicans. It's never about what they're going to do for America.
Yeah.
But do you think, that a lot of this is deliberate? And, for this one world order agenda, let's just go there. Let's just talk about all of this, because what is really happening with all of this? Why? And I want to know some things about what is your thoughts on these hundreds of food processing plants that are just randomly blowing up, and no one's talking about this?
Well, there's the train derailments, and you're called to conspiracy theorists if you just ask questions. I don't have all the answers, like I said earlier, but I know that my colleague Karen Turk and I have taken our morning show, American Sunrise, to East Palestine twice, not once, twice. And we left there coughing and feeling sick because of the chemicals. Yeah, we took a lot of vitamins and supplements on the way out. I feel great. I'm not going to dramatize it. Certainly there are people who still live there and must be getting sick because they're there. Right. We were just in there for like 2 or 3 days of reporting each time. But my point is not to hold ourselves up, but to say, why hasn't Joe Biden gone to East Palestine? Back to Dr. Wolf, she came on our show, and her husband has studied a lot of this and has said that they believe, it's possible that China or some other dark force could be behind some of these train derailments and other things. It's sort of this soft approach to war where you keep dinging away and doing things that are wearing America down from within. I don't have all the answers, but I know that we're seeing dozens and dozens of train derailments, chemical weapons, the rest of it, chemicals that could be used as weapons, I guess is a better way to say it. What's going on? What's the real truth here? So.
Right. Well, I remember when you were a White House correspondent, and I just think about what would Ed Henry do now as a White House correspondent?
I'd be pretty upset with what's going on. I mean, I'll give you one quick example. We're talking about the debt ceiling. The White House press secretary, Jean-Pierre, today was saying that, Joe Biden, because we might default, they're so concerned about this. He's been negotiating for months to try to get a deal, and the Republicans won't do a deal. Well, the Republican National Committee went back and they've got the receipts going back to February, right? And at the daily press briefing, the same person, Jean-Pierre, kept saying, we're not negotiating with these Republicans. We're just going to lift the debt ceiling. We're not going to negotiate. Now they're saying we've been negotiating for months.
Yeah.
They think we're stupid. They think there's not a tape that a White House correspondent could go and find and say, wait, I was sitting in this room in February and you said just the opposite. But they want to tell us the sky is green with a straight face and just say, no, wait, it's blue. No, it's green.
It's the
and they push these fake narratives, fake news, as I said.
But those sound bites are never going to air on mainstream media.
That's the point. So you asked me, I would be calling them out more. I think Peter Ducey and others do a good job. But more people need to back them up. And I felt that when I was at Fox. A lot of other networks would in private say you're asking good questions, but they wouldn't follow up in public. Because their bosses didn't want those questions.
But you had the courage to do it, and courage begets courage.
Yeah, and you got to push. And there were some people who would rise up, you know. And sooner or later they get shamed in the mainstream media because you can't hide this. I mean, there have been, I saw CNN after the Durham report came out doing factual reports saying this is bad. This is a 300-page report saying the FBI lied. Let me just give you that one thing. Yeah. So we're not going to go through 307 pages of the Durham report, but we knew it before the Durham report. Now it's been confirmed in more layers. James Comey was the FBI director, and he signed a piece of paper to the FISA court, this surveillance court, which when I covered it in the Bush administration, like, this is the most serious court. It operates in secret. If we need a warrant to spy on Al-Qaeda, to listen to their phone to see if there's going to be a terror attack. And there was the ACLU in the left in the Bush years saying, I don't know if we should be spying on terrorists. And Bush's point was, hang on, they're not calling their, I remember him giving speeches. We're not going to listen in, he'd say, if they're calling Uncle Al. But if that person, that American, is calling Al-Qaeda, I want to be on the phone, right? We want to listen. It was kind of a joke that he did, right? But he's right. Now it's been turned on its head. That same FISA court, Comey signed a piece of paper to spy on Trump's people like Carter Page and lied to that court and said, we have information suggesting that the Russians are infiltrating this campaign. We now know that was a lie. It was based on lies, the Steele dossier and all that. Yes. Do you think if you signed a piece of paper to a FISA court, to a judge, to get a fake warrant to spy on, you think you'd be in jail or you'd be out making money on books like Comey? You know the answer. I know the answer. Why are they not held accountable?
Right. Well, they slow walked it, and then the statute of limitations. But but why are some of these issues treason? Why isn't some of that you're selling out your
the Hunter Biden laptop? How is that?
We saw crimes in the laptop. There's multiple crimes, exploitation of children, business that are the most serious potential crimes, of course, but potentially business deals where taxes were not paid and corruption. One example, James Comer comes forward. I mentioned a moment ago, Republican of Kentucky. $1 million from a Romanian national goes to the Biden family, not Joe Biden personally, per se. We'll see.
The big guy.
The big guy. But the big guy's getting 10% in the laptop, right? So the big guy, we think Joe, is getting 10%. Did he pay taxes on that 10%? By the way, that's a question. Number two, was it more than 10%? He looked us in the eye, Joe Biden, in 2020, said I wasn't involved at all. 10% for the big guy suggests you were at least involved. Now, other emails from the laptop have come out saying he was involved in meetings, and this Romanian maybe met with him, consulted with Biden when he was vice president of the United States. Not when he was a private citizen, which could be bad as well, but when he was a sitting vice president with Obama. Do you think if Don Jr. was cutting deals with Romanian nationals for $1 million for the Trump family, this conversation would be happening in court, not in a CNN set or at a congressional hearing? They would be prosecuting the Trump family. You know it and I know it.
And Biden was saying he got that prosecutor fired.
In Ukraine.
Yeah. And so
on the record.
And
he said it's on tape.
Accountability for why are we spending all this money to help their border?
Ukraine is a whole other thing. We're talking about the debt ceiling. We've sent over $130 billion to Ukraine. I get we got to send some. They're an ally. We don't want them to just be naked and beaten to a pulp by Russia. But on the other hand, where's this money going? Where are the controls? We have no control over it. Who's really benefiting?
Yes.
Come on.
And is it just
is it a laundering operation for the Hunter Bidens of the world and the Nancy Pelosi's? And what about Nancy Pelosi's stock transactions?
Oh my goodness! Well, people
why is the SEC not doing that?
Seeing what is
Here's
Nancy
the thing.
doing?
You elect Donald Trump, and he's going to have the SEC chairman on day one investigating Nancy. You elect Donald Trump on day one, his attorney general. It's not going to be Barr. It's not going to be set. He made a lot of mistakes. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Some of his personnel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But he's going to have to find somebody who's real and is going to follow the facts. And I think the Biden family is going to be quite nervous if Donald Trump wins and Joe Biden loses.
Exactly. Well, we cannot have you on the program without asking you, what do you think about the whole Tucker Carlson cancellation?
I had a brief conversation with Tucker. We're friends from when I was at Fox. I don't like to talk about private conversation. All I would say is that he expressed great happiness with what he's doing now. That basically, as I feel, I was fired by Fox unfairly. I've fought it. I've got court papers that I'll let that do the talking, because I don't want to talk outside of that. I'm innocent, and they were unfair to me. But
you were speaking truth.
Right. Here's what I'd say. Number one, on Tucker, and then I get to my context here, because I'm not going to just sit here and bash Fox. I don't have sour grapes. I'm happy with what I'm doing now. I don't think it's a good look for anyone to look in the rearview mirror.
Exactly.
I think God has a plan. Look forward, and I'll get to that. But on Tucker, to answer you directly, he said he was happy. I believe him, because I'm happy after being fired by Fox. I think there's going to be a lot more people. I keep hearing rumors of others who are about to be cut. They fired some of their investigative unit. There might be other anchors going out.
Well, it's now a badge of honor.
Yeah, well, I think that they got away from who their audience really is, and they were kind of lying to their audience on election night about Arizona and other things, because they wanted to get Trump out of there. And I've said that on Steve Bannon's War Room, and I'll repeat it. They don't like it, but that's the truth. And then once their ratings started coming down after the election, and Newsmax was rising, and Real America's Voice and others, then they started pushing election fraud, which got them in trouble with Dominion, rightly or wrongly. I'm not taking Dominion side or Fox's. You can battle it out in court. But the fact is, after looking the other way on election fraud on election night and immediately after, Fox all of a sudden went all in with Maria Bartiromo and others that triggered the suit on fraud, because their audience wanted to hear it. When the text messages in Discovery on Dominion said Sean Hannity and others were downplaying fraud, saying this is BS. We got to get Trump to go away quietly. Let's land the plane. Hannity said all these things, but on the air, hey, massive election fraud. Let's have Rudy on. So they're telling the audience one thing and saying something in private. All of us have made mistakes like that, where we're preaching one thing and in private we're doing something else, and we fall down. And the Bible makes it clear that you're on the wrong path. And I think they were lying to their audience, and they've paid a price. And rather than proving their innocence, they settled with Dominion to the tune of $787 million. And I think Tucker, I don't know all the facts, and I'm not going to speculate. There's been sharp reporting suggesting that whether it was directly tied to the Dominion settlement, or if there was a wink and a nod that as part of that settlement, Tucker had to go, they had to make some heads roll. And I think Tucker will be bigger and better outside of Fox. And I hear that from people here who are coming up to me at the Religious Broadcasters Convention saying, I watch your show now on Real America's Voice, and God is using you to speak truth, maybe truth you couldn't say at Fox. And so I had a post on Instagram yesterday where I said that, when you're fired from somewhere, whether it's Fox or somewhere else, at first you think your career's done, I messed up, I'm never going to work again, I'm never going to have a platform like this again. And what I said was, God has a plan that's not always obvious at first. And I had someone who works at Fox come up to me at this convention who said, quote, you got out just in time. Now,
you did.
That's
did.
right.
Yes.
And so there you go. And there's some nice people here. Thank you. So look, I'm not going to bash them. I'm going to try to speak the truth. And I have a positive feeling about so many people who still work there or who are friends. There are other people who still work there who just, once you get fired, you never hear from them again. And they know who they are. And it disappoints you. But then you know who your friends are.
Exactly.
And I am actually grateful, again, to God that He's shown me who is really my friend, who was a fake friend, and all of that.
Yeah.
And so, final point on the God has a plan. At first, I thought, oh my God, this is the worst thing. And then I wound up at Real America's Voice. I have this outstanding co-host, these outstanding co-workers. Our CEO is somebody who's got a vision to use this streaming platform to expand Real America's Voice into a faith and family channel and all kinds of other things that we have coming down the road. And so God does have a plan, and at first you don't see it maybe, and you have to trust it. And it can be hard, because for a while there, it was tough. But then I trusted in God, and here I am feeling great. with a better show than I had before, a better platform than I had before, and Real America's Voice is growing like crazy. And I'm not just here to promote Real America's Voice. I know your platforms are as well. I think the point more broadly, beyond me, beyond us, if you listen closely at NRB here, whether it's Angel Productions and the movies, Christian movies used to be this thing in a basement. They were kind of boring.
Yeah.
They weren't on the big screen. They were on cable at 3
A
a.m.
couple of cameras,
Now they're in 2,000 theaters, and they're going to win Academy Awards, and they're going to more importantly change people's lives than more than win awards. And so I feel the same about these streaming platforms that we're on right now. Fox might not see it today, but there was a report in the Washington Post just yesterday. We already know people are cutting the cable cord, but in the last 6 months, last year, it's happened even more.
Oh yeah.
And the ratings are reflecting that in cable. Fox is struggling, and others are too. And I just think that's good for the streaming platforms because people are gonna get more direct access to the news they trust.
Right.
And I think that I started the conversation saying there were 3 networks with Cronkite, ABC, CBS, NBC, got flattened a little with cable. Fox, Roger Ailes, and Rupert Murdoch bring us something. Then Murdoch goes the wrong way on all of this crazy election stuff. And now cable is getting flattened into streaming.
It is.
And it's getting more small D Democrat all the time. And here.
What about go woke, go broke? I mean,
saw with Disney, seeing with Target, Bud Light, and then meanwhile, I saw a mainstream media story in the Palm Beach Post, which I think was getting it from USA Today, feeds them stories on Sunday, saying, Bud Light's doing great. It's exaggerated. They're not being canceled because they probably have a crisis PR person selling them on a story. They bought it hook, line, and sinker, and he said, these conservatives don't have as much power as they want. Then I read an actual story where you go to a Walmart in middle America and they're marking down the case of Budweiser because there's a shelf life, literally and figuratively, where the beer can't sit there for 6 months or a year. It's going to go flat. So they're now discounting it. Bud Light is now planning this summer, there's been reports, to hand out free beer at the beaches and stuff to beg people, please don't leave Bud Light.
Yeah.
As you go woke, go broke.
It's the truth. We, Ed, have loved having you on
Thanks
our
for having
show
me.
today. I cannot believe our
Don't
time
forget
is
the most important
almost
part,
up. I know we are going to ask you to pray
Great.
for our viewers. Do you mind?
I would love to do it. Dear Lord, I would first like to pray, not just for the viewers who are out there. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you interacting with us on all these wonderful platforms. But I also want you also to pray for Nina and Michelle. These are 2 brave women. They're prayer warriors. There are people who are speaking truth to power, and we want to support them in all of their endeavors. Amen.
Oh, thank you for that.
Thank you. We appreciate
that. We pray
that.
for you and that everything you touch will prosper and succeed for the Lord. Because
thank you.
We are very, very grateful.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you joining us. I watch every day.
Well, thank
You're
you.
amazing.
Yes.
You can get the truth from this man, truly.
Well, we appreciate it. Nice to see you both.
Yeah.
Thank
Grace
you.
and grace.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Henry.
All right.